That's a song of mine. It's one of a couple, actually, that I've composed about my experience. And I'll cut an album really soon. Right now, I'm just a little bit busy trying to get my freedom back. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go get my keys. So I am recording. Because I've done nothing wrong. And they're not doing anything illegal. And there's no justification. Any negative to happen to me. some sick people in Columbus, Ohio. Yikes. Hopefully they see the error of their ways and they will alter course, but can't be so sure about that. Looks like it's going to be a sunny day. It's cloudy right now, but the clouds are not in the western sky. That's a good sign, because we need some sunshine. Right now, our environment has way too much of it because of the extra UV light. It is actually all around. The sound of this lighter makes people assume things. And as a result, I get stalked in my neighborhood. They inform their friends or the police or Metro. And hospitalizations occur because this is their strategy to have me lose my home and what I own. And I live in a beautiful section of Clintonville in Columbus, Ohio. And I have a fabulous view, and there are deer that live in the ravine, and it's a very special place. It's why I've chosen to live here for 18 years now. Things were fine for the first 10. Oh, there goes Patty. Patty lives here. Across the street. She doesn't like me. And she's ruined my life, actually. And people know that she has. And don't want her to get in trouble for it. She intentionally created my mental illness diagnosis. She did it almost single-handedly because of an imposter who came into the neighborhood and told her a plan. So she shared with police the plan And they believed that it was government backed because he pretended to be from the Secret Service. And they're the same two people that met with me first in my driveway. The day I returned from Washington, D.C. And that's a funny story. It was June 20th, 2019, when I filed my first FBI tip. And I sent it to IC3 with details of harassment, neighborhood harassment, and the use of V2K. And a couple that would not leave me alone and was harassing me. On the 21st, the next morning, I woke up and was told it was my last day to live. I gathered up, because the people who are talking in my head also can see what I do. So they just didn't hear typing. Oh, look, little kitty cat. We have a couple of them. There's a white one, and the white one likes this area of Arvid's front porch that has a depression and is where projections actually come out of. So I hope the white cat's not the devil, but that's another story. We're talking about DC. I gathered up all the evidence I had, and I got into my Saturn wagon, and I drove 95 to 100 miles per hour, not knowing what I was going to do when I got there. Drove to Washington, D.C. As I entered the city, it just so happened that I was next to a police car. So I rolled down my window and I said, "Excuse me, could you please tell me which way the White House is?" And the two officers, well, one of them, I forget which one, said, "Sure, there's a station right up here, 2 blocks away. We'll meet you there." I said, "Great." So I followed them, parked my vehicle, and went inside and began to explain what I was doing in DC, and gave them the printed report that I had filed the night before in IC3. I never mentioned that my life was in danger. I just mentioned that I was in DC trying to get some help. And they told me to wait. It was air conditioned in there, and I continued to talk to the one officer. They may have tried to contact the FBI, but the FBI did not show up. The Secret Service actually did. So I met two people from the Secret Service on the 21st at Precinct 1 in Washington, D.C. It was about maybe 45 minutes. I'll tell you what, that is a professional group of people. Their job's to protect the president. That's what they do. That's all they do. So they took photographs of my laptop and my devices of the serial numbers and barcodes. They took pictures of my journal, which I had written and continue to write, and is available on Facebook for you to read. It started as They Drone Me Crazy, and it continued as Tiered Justice, Equity, and Equality. And it's up to date. Although I'm on a silencing because I stood up for myself against Jenny Kepler, who continues to harass me online. 45 minutes. They also took pictures of my pictures because I had a whole stack of pictures. The reason I have actual photographs instead of just things online is because Arvid has access to all of my devices and all of my accounts online. So important photographs and videos disappear out of it. So one summer, I spent a lot of time at Midwest Photo, which is right up the road, and I was transferring important pictures onto glossy prints and paying for them so that I would have evidence that would not disappear. The reason I'm stalling for a minute is because all the neighbors, and there are two that are walking right now, but they've separated. My neighbors act very strange. Anyway, they believe that if I am speaking out loud, I'm horribly sick, and they've been instructed to call the police or headcare. Back to the story. I figured that with meeting the Secret Service that afternoon in DC, I had basically accomplished more than I could have ever hoped for, and considered my trip to DC complete. And I was not going to continue asking for help in resolving neighborhood harassment that the police don't want to address because you're in support of it and encouraging it. So I began coming back. I spent the night at a hotel, and the return trip is important, so pay attention. I spent a night at a hotel, and then the next morning I continued driving back, and it was somewhere in West Virginia or Pennsylvania. I forget the town. But the receipt and transaction history will show a Holiday Inn that I spent 4 or 5 days in. The reason I spent that much time out in the middle of nowhere is because on my return trip, my engine blew up in my Saturn. I had forgotten to put oil in. This was now the second engine that I have destroyed. Third, because I already replaced the Scion's engine when the same thing happened. When I went out to my brother's that I missed for Christmas in Boston. So I already replaced it, and then returning from Florida for Christmas, the Scion engine blew in Valdosta. It's right inside Georgia, southern Georgia, just north of the Florida border. Anyway, it was the third engine I had destroyed, trying to get my freedom back. I ended up renting a car and returning to Ohio. As I was coming up the driveway, there were two vehicles parked at the curb right underneath that big tree in the corner across the street, right near the telephone pole. They were parked right there. One vehicle was brown, the other one was blue. They were both late model vehicles that had maybe been popular 15 years ago. Two people, one in each car, sat, and I went to my chaise lounge in the front yard, and I smoked a cigarette. That's when two car doors opened and closed, and the two walked down the street and up my driveway. I met them at the top of my stairs, and they said, "We're the Secret Service." I said, "Oh, we just wanted to make sure that you got back okay." Okay. And they said, "Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on?" I said, "Sure. There's neighborhood harassment going on, and there are strange lights coming out of Arvid Ashby's house." And they said, "Well, we're going to leave him alone, but we're going to talk to some other neighbors about what's going on." I said, "Okay." And as they walked down the driveway, they said a very important statement, because it's something that a federal employee would not ever say. He gave medical advice, and there were two things that public employees, or anyone for that matter, on the job is not supposed to do. And this is a lesson for the police too. You do not give advice about law, and you do not offer medical advice, because they're professions that require a degree. And if you say something on the job that is of those two branches, it is illegal. The medical advice that was given was, you should see a psychologist. What that statement means, because people always tell on themselves if you listen closely. And as this whole thing has unfolded, it meant he was aware that remote neural monitoring was being used to harass me and to stalk me and to make me appear mentally ill. So, the reason that return trip is important is because in June 2021, I got 45 911 transcripts that were related to my address and phone number. A lot of them were Patty Ryan. A couple were from Rachel. I think Arvid only had one. Eddie had a few, and my fraternity brothers had some too. So what that means is I got a lot of information out of those 45 recordings, and I combed through every single one looking for clues because people weren't telling me anything. And I got a lot of answers. One of the recordings that Patty, actually, there are two, where she mentions the Secret Service visiting her. And she repeats what the Secret Service told her. That I got in trouble for what was on my computer. That I was arrested in Washington, D.C. That they followed me back to Ohio. The reason that's important, they also shared, I believe, that I gave them, it's in the recording, that I gave them her address and name. And I did not do that. That's important too. Because Patty believes that these people I know, and that's not true. They're strangers to me. But they were protecting Arvid by not going over and talking to him. So it's possible that they were friends, or that they were friends with Bill, who lives behind me in the White House, or Etta, who lives next door in 437 Como. Because Bill's wife met with a young man and in that alley told Bill's wife, oh yeah, if he's doing meth, we'll definitely find out about it. Which means this young man was aware that remote neural monitoring and illegal surveillance was being used. So, Patty worked with one of these men, and so did Arvid, for 3.5 years. And I believe coached her and gave her things to say to the police and maintain an idea in the police's head that these words were coming from the real government. The police still believe that. You know how I know that? Keith Connor's body cam. On Devil's Night, the day before I met with Patty and recorded the conversation, Keith said to Arvid, while I was upstairs getting my laptop to play Patty's 911 call, Keith told Arvid that there was a plan to cause a lengthier hospitalization. Can you tell me how you would premeditate a false imprisonment? Not only is the false imprisonment a crime, but the premeditation is a crime as well. Why would this be the plan of the police? Easy. It's because the plan came from this man, HLL9533, to get me to move. And the plan was to create a mental illness diagnosis. Yeah. So, what they've actually done is committed Medicaid fraud. And that is something that the real government would not actually encourage. Because for my situation alone, it's $2 million of fraud. That's how much my 25 hospitalizations have cost taxpayers. And guess what? My health insurance medical records only have 17 out of the 25 hospitalizations. 8 are missing. Who might have done that? Probably the police, if they were operating under the authority of the government, because the government does what it wants. So, 8 hospitalizations are missing. Guess which ones those were? The ones with holes in them that would show intentional and incorrect or false imprisonment. So any of the ones that would have holes in them were removed. Probably also the ones that showed I was not on any drugs when taken into the hospital. Why is that important? Well, the police are making this all a drug thing, and it's not at all. How can I be so sure that the projections are not a drug thing? Because I'm circling them and posting them online in other people's pictures in other locations. So I'm proving that the projections are something that is visible with a smart camera lens, and I'm able to identify that is not related to me using drugs or them. I'm assuming that they're not on drugs. These projections are present and are becoming more visible in our environment. This is really important because there's been a lie told that they're not actually real. And the police have spread the idea that they're delusions, that I'm just seeing things that aren't there. And it's made of invisible light, which which is a really sick twist. Because if nobody is looking through a camera lens and they're just looking with their eyes, they're not going to see anything. So it's a double dose of entrapment. My friends believe that the projections come out, and I think my neighbors have been told that the projections come out when I do drugs. False. They come out of a box that the military stores them in, and they get released by somebody turning a switch. That's why the birdhouse 2 houses away being installed is of curiosity in my mind. And the one that is on 437 at his house, of the big tree that's pretty much hidden from my view. But I gotta tell you, it is so high up in the tree, I don't know how you would ever fill it with any bird feed. Duh. Also, here's a secret. Back in the corner near the fence of 437's backyard that butts up to the whisperer's garage, where there's a strange side vent. It looks like an exhaust fan vent, but I think it's something else. I discovered, without looking, that there's a tarp covering, I'm guessing, equipment. JNJ 7113. It was a vehicle that turned around at the intersection and has chosen to stop in front of what used to be Albert Fish's house. Albert Fish is the person that lives at 457 Midgard, and a location where somebody accessing my Microsoft account was close to 50 times between Valentine's Day and May 15th. I reported it to the police, but they don't give me services because I'm a little slave. Anyway, I reported that I actually talked with Albert Fish too, because his house was for sale, and I asked, I forget his first name. His last name is Casey. He's a prominent real estate agent here in the Clintonville area and Columbus. Real nice guy. I had never met him before. I shared with him that somebody had access to my Microsoft account, and it showed that Albert's residence was visited many times, and it was important that I get a hold of him. So Mr. Casey did relay the message to either Albert or gave me his phone number. I forget which. But I left a message and I said exactly what was going on and that I really needed his help, and if he could share with me who it might be. I didn't get any response. Yep. Albert Fish's house, which is white, is across the street from two of Patty's friends, Mr. and Mrs. Silvertop. And I call them that because I don't know their real names. The same as I don't know Mr. and Mrs. Missing Link's names. And they live across the street from Patty's garage. But all these people know my name, even though we've never been formally introduced, which is strange, but whatever. I guess that's about it for right now. But there's more information coming. Oh, the Mr. and Mrs. Silvertop's house is a brick house. And a location where in the front yard, I think there has been some active stalking and monitoring by either the group or the police or both. Um, Bernie can help out with some information, but I'm almost afraid to approach her about it because she's lied about not being at the barbecue that was held by 437 Como, and she lied to my face, and you know, even pulled out the gay card with stating, you know, we're gay. And if somebody had said that, we definitely would have stood up for you. No, you didn't. And I think it's because they were told to lie. She was told to lie to me. Because that's how everything got started. If you go on to a satellite app, I wouldn't choose Google because Google censors. I would go on to a different one. The one I discovered that works really well is an Apple app called Find My. It's for your iPhone. If you look around my property, 434 Midgard Road, zip code 43202, and zoom in, you will discover the technology that's being used in the neighborhood because it's a smart camera lens. It's more advanced than our own eye, and it picks up on this technology. There is a lot of it in Bill's yard. There is tons of it in the Whisperer's yard, which is one house west of 437 Como. There's only a little bit in 437 Como, which means, just like the barbecue, where Bill used 437's yard to do the hate speech, 437 Como has had other neighbors' yards used instead of their own. See, they tell themselves. You can see the technology on the map apps, and I've circled it and posted it on social media. So do some investigative work if you don't have anything going on today, because I'm offering a reward for my freedom. I'm writing my life story the last number of years. They're my journal, and it's about getting my rights restored and my freedom back. And it has to do with this technology too, which I think is new, but maybe not. The military, who shoots down outer culture guests in their crafts, and they've done that for a number of years, and they recover the crafts and they interrogate and imprison and torture and murder outer culture guests. This is true. So I know that they've got DNA of outer culture guests. I think because this is super advanced technology, the way it's able to manipulate light. I believe, with good reason, that this technology is being used to create Blackout Day. And Blackout Day is a horrible day that the military will be celebrating because it will mean all freedom is gone for everybody and all rights have disappeared. And you might say, how is that going to happen? Well, it's an executive order. The executive order number 12333, which Biden has continued, is a depopulation agenda. And one of the components of it is blackening out Europe and America at the same time. This would give Russia the advantage. And Russia knows about Blackout Day. Intelligences there and here have both confirmed, yes, it is an actual plan. With Europe and the Americas dealing with their own crisis, it would give Russia the opportunity to take over much land. Why would we be participating in a plan like that? Well, as it so happens, Russia's actually a friend of ours. We need them for their rocket technology because we don't have rockets that are good enough to use to get things up to the International Space Station, which is actually not in space. It's in low Earth orbit. So we rely a lot on Russia. So we would want them to gain more power so that whenever the lights come back on, we could really take on Russia. World War III. Blackout Day, which could happen by the super conducers. There are like 9 of them that need to be either turned off or damaged somehow. And it would blacken out the entire country because our grid is so overstuffed. Just like an electrical outlet with a extension cord with tons of plugs put in it. It would short out. This technology, though, could create Blackout Day without any electricity ever really being shut off. But it would make it so that it was completely pitch black, so that no electricity would shine any lights, and no military equipment would work because we would be in pitch blackness. Why would that be? Because this technology can create black. It can create any color. And all black is a combination or mixture of all the colors in the visual spectrum. So it would change everything to pitch black. It would mean that no lights would work. So I don't know how the hell the military would think that it would be able to restore power or order in an emergency situation. The answer is they wouldn't be able to, because the technology would just cover up the lens. It would position itself right over the light's lens and block it all out. This is a reality. So, there's a good reason why I'm trying my hardest to get this done and over with and exposed, because I don't want to see more people die. Government wants the people to die. It's an agenda. It's hard to wrap your brain around that it's actually true. But it's clear when you understand that COVID is being caused by remote neural monitoring. How can I be so sure of that? Look at the WHO data table for World Income Group for the coronavirus. Go online right now and look at the numbers. The people getting sick and people dying, a majority of them are in the upper class. How can something you catch target people with money? That just doesn't make any sense. It becomes glaringly clear because there are many more poor people than rich by the numbers. Then, in fact, it's a targeted murdering being conducted by my military with R&M, because governments are collecting tax on the death of people. This accomplishes two things, because people with money have influence and pull. So if they're dead, not only do they no longer have influence and are a threat to the government, but their money has disappeared as well and gone to the government. The quickest way to make the world poor, besides creating inflation, which it did do in 2020 on purpose, when they printed 20% of all the currency that's out there in 1 year without backing it. It created inflation that we're experiencing today. Anyway, blackout day is a bad idea. And the government needs to hold the military responsible for the genocide of the human race, and we need to end COVID today. Because right now, R&M's illegal to use, even though they made it legal on paper. It violates the constitutional rights of the victim. It is illegal. if blackout day happens, in order to restore order, the military would take over control of the country. If that happens, our Constitution has disappeared. So all of a sudden, remote neural monitoring becomes illegal. And we would never again have a country that was free, of the people, for the people, and by the people. We would become a military regime, and they would never let go control of the country again. So it's important that the elected officials step up to the plate and ban use of remote neural monitoring for the safety of the citizens of the world. That should get them reelected. And the way they do that is by calling out the military for using it. And the government might think that that's dangerous to do. So I've got a way to get around that. Biden needs to repeal his executive order. He needs to end the executive order because the military is just going to fall back on the executive order and it will be the government's fault instead of the military's. So, now that you know some things, and I see one of you has, bless you, MK Ultra Mind Control. Thank you. Take some of what I'm saying as truth and start spreading it around because it is the plan. And my government needs to stop the plan. We can do it. We just have to not be afraid. Because R&M does that too. It makes you artificially afraid. If you have God on your side, He gives you enough strength to carry out His will. And He wants us to be like every other creature that has been blessed with the gift of existence to experience freedom. When you see a bunch of ducks, you don't see them going only to the east side of an island and avoiding the west, or not swimming in a location, or birds not going on a branch. It's man who restricts man and puts each other into slavery. God does not do that. God would not be so cruel as to enslave people He gave the existence of life to. That's absolutely true. And He gives us examples of how to live our lives as humans by observing nature as the example. My government has a problem They have an addiction, and it's their inability to not let people be free. They want to control everything. And the way to do that is by controlling their mind and manipulating their thoughts and their emotions. It's true. So, it's a beautiful sunny day. There's reason to be happy. And if you are around in, let's see what time is it? It is noon. I think sunset happens around 7:30. So 7 hours from now, come back. And I'm going to do another live feed to show the Ohio Bermuda Triangle because it's real. And I don't know how it's happening. But a portion of my deck's railing does not appear on my back fence. And the shadow of two lights shines on it. The first light is from this street lamp in the street. And the second one is from my dining room window, right there on the bottom, shining out onto my back fence. And it shows a triangle that is not casting a shadow from my dining room light, but is from the street lamp. It's really strange. I have informed the police, I have informed the media, and I've posted many things online. But people still don't believe. That's got to change. So I'm continuing to share because no one's told me not to. And if anybody thinks that they have, that's a setup. And it's being done with Arvid Ashby because he has access to everything. And he's impersonating me, which the police know, but aren't doing anything about because Arvid's trying to set me up for a crime I didn't do to silence me because I want to tell the truth of my experience. Yeah. And you just thought police were there to protect you. No, not in my case. Because I have an incredible story. So the reward, and this is where you get to be involved, go onto a map app and zone in on this address. Let's see. My address. Scroll in, zoom in on that area of the ravine. And what you will discover is the technology. It doesn't look like our normal environment. And if you go to the properties north of me, you'll see images of faces in the trees, and you will see what looks like electrical connections, and You'll also see a couple of holes in the ground. This technology that could create blackout day, I think, has been planted in the ravine about 8 or 9 years ago. There are probably many locations where the military has chosen to release this alien technology into our environment because it's everywhere. So go on to the map app and you can follow its point of origin. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It appears that the technology is actually coming from the ravine. And are connected wirelessly to, I don't know, kind of like a halfway house when you're playing golf and you can stop and rest and have a bite to eat and something to drink before you hit the back nine. I think this technology is sourced from the ravine. It's difficult on the map app to see where it's coming from. And the ravine is 2 blocks north of me. I think it's coming from a ranch near the end of Como, where it dead ends, which is the street just north of me. And it could be a government surveillance house because it's where Patty disappeared for 20 minutes. How do I know that? Easy. I was riding my bike one day to get a pack of cigarettes to UDF, and I saw her in the alley as I was going to UDF. On my way back, I looked down the alley. There was Patty. She had only moved 20 feet. That means Patty visited someone. And the only thing that Patty Ryan is focused on is getting me to move. So I know there's a connection to my harassment and stalking and R&M from the ravine. So if you can come up with a location, I'm giving a % of profit share of my journals, which I will plan to publish once I'm able to write a conclusion, and that involves a hero to save me. And you can read the reward on tiered justice, equity, and equality on Facebook. It's the pinned post, and it gives a whole list of things that I'm giving in exchange for my freedom. So check it out, and see you in about 7 hours. Bye, world. And I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere yet. One day, I'll be gone. But it's not today. See you later.